Shedeur, third-string quarterback, fifth-round pick, obviously has a massive spotlight on him because of who he is, the success he's had, how many people follow and like him, and also, the family he comes from is a very important piece of the entire puzzle because that particular family, the dad happens to be one of the greatest athletes to ever exist. Not just one of the greatest football players, just athletes of all time, motivators, businessmen, musicians, we'll even say.
Sure.
You name it, good at everything. So family is going to be followed. Him being a part of that, obviously going to be talked about. So him responding to Rex Ryan saying, I don't need to hear you talk. I don't need to hear your mouth.
I disagree with you. I think he was taking a shot at Shedeur.
You think so?
When have we ever thought about the media, those beat writers as entertainers? We've heard his coach, he was on the team when he said they're celebs.
So, wait, but you can't tie him and his coach together as if they have the same mind, as if they're one. You
Name the time you've ever heard someone say there are entertainers and there are competitors, and I'm here to compete. Tell me the time.
It's over, man. It's a wrap. Dillon Gabriel is done with the Cleveland Browns. This was an awful pick. This was a top 100 draft pick who is now about to be out of there for a late round pick, like a 7th round pick. This is nuts. Dillon Gabriel and his fiance, y'all both can crash out to this one. She had a lot to say last offseason, last training camp, and all of that.
You didn't see Shedeur get drafted until the 5th round. Now, allegedly, there was Ravens and who knows how many other teams that wanted to draft Shedeur, and they said no, declined, which once again is a whole nother conversation that's happening around NFL buildings about.
He still doesn't know what he's looking at.
And so Shedeur Sanders is going to read, he's going to look back at that safety, try to hold that safety, and look at where he throws it there, right down the middle of the field.
He still doesn't flip protections. He doesn't know when he's hot.
Shedeur knows he's hot. All right. He trusts just enough 39 to get that block. Throws a strike.
So then Shedeur shouldn't even want to go out there. Is that what you're trying to tell me?
No. We always want to play. I don't give a damn how bad we are. I want to play.
Okay.
But if I'm Kevin Stefanski and the Cleveland Browns, I'm not playing Shedeur right now. I'm not. I want to see 4 games ain't enough to judge Dillon Gabriel. That's not enough. I need to give Dillon Gabriel, I'm giving him minimum 7 games. Minimum 7 games.
We recently talked about some lines that were being spread by one Jason Lloyd, and obviously they were pretty easily debunked, talking about, Shedeur not being able to read defenses and this and that, and a bunch of stuff that just a lot of people within the building as well as narratives throughout the season just kind of went against. Now, this seemingly sparked a bit of a heated debate on the Ultimate Cleveland show. Obviously, our guy G. Bush is there. Him and Tyvis kind of went back and forth at it. But before we even get into that, I was talking about why, there's a problem.
Dillon Gabriel. Completed 8 of his first 9 passes, threw a pick 6, bad decision, but was later credited with a fumble on a botched handoff. After the game, he made some very, very interesting comments. He said, there are entertainers and there are competitors, and my job is to compete. He tried to clarify later at the presser, saying he meant the media are the entertainers and a competitor, and he's a competitor. And he wasn't taking a shot at Shedeur, but the damage was done. Everybody knows what he meant by that, because you know why? I'm gonna let you take off. You remember at Oregon what the head coach said when they played Colorado?
Right.
Who was the quarterback?
Yeah.
Who was the quarterback?
Okay.
Dillon Gabriel, once viewed as a promising piece of the Cleveland Browns' future, has officially been removed from the team after a series of incidents that turned heads across the league. What makes this story even more surprising is that new Browns head coach Todd Monken didn't make the call based only on what was happening between the lines on Sunday. The bigger problem brewing in Cleveland had a lot to do with locker room energy and how certain players were treating each other, especially when it came to Shedeur Sanders. In the NFL, talent matters, but respect inside the building matters just as much. And when that balance gets shaky, coaches act fast. Now let's break this whole situation down, because Gabriel's time in Cleveland didn't just fade away quietly. It crashed to a halt like a fourth quarter turnover in the red zone. When Dillon Gabriel first started getting attention around the league, the hype train was moving at full speed. Analysts were talking about his potential. Highlight clips were flying around social media, and fans were curious if the Browns might have quietly found a young quarterback worth developing. At one point, the conversation around Gabriel sounded pretty optimistic. He had confidence, he had experience, and there were people who believed he could grow into something useful for the franchise. For a brief stretch, it really did look like Cleveland might have discovered a hidden gem. But football stories change quickly. especially when personalities collide. And that's exactly where things began shifting. The moment Shedeur Sanders entered the picture, the quarterback room suddenly had a completely different vibe. Sanders was already one of the most talked about young quarterbacks coming out of college football. His confidence, his leadership, and his ability to make plays in big moments had people paying attention. Fans loved the swagger. Teammates respected the work ethic, and analysts kept pointing out the same thing. This kid had serious upside. However, instead of embracing the competition like most quarterbacks do, Gabriel appeared to take a different approach. From the very beginning, there were signs that he wasn't exactly thrilled about Sanders getting attention. During his first preseason appearance, Gabriel made a comment that instantly sparked conversation across football circles. He referred to Shedeur Sanders and some other players as entertainers rather than competitors. That line traveled fast through social media and sports talk shows because in football culture, calling someone an entertainer can sound like you're questioning their seriousness about the game. And here's where the timing of that comment made things even louder. At that moment, Shedeur Sanders was already showing flashes of exactly why people were excited about him. Even as a fifth-round pick, he was making plays that made coaches lean forward on the sideline. Tight throws into coverage, confident reads, quick decisions. The kind of stuff that makes fans say, okay, this guy might be for real. So when Gabriel tried to frame Sanders as someone who wasn't a true competitor, it didn't land well with a lot of observers. In fact, many people felt the comment came off as unnecessary. Shedeur Sanders had built his reputation on toughness, preparation, and performance. Anyone who followed his college career knew he wasn't just about highlights. He played through pressure, delivered in big moments, and showed leadership that teammates respected. Suggesting that a player with that resume wasn't serious about competition felt like a strange angle to take, especially inside a locker room where everyone is fighting for the same goal. But the story didn't stop with that single remark. Over time, the tension between the two quarterbacks seemed to grow rather than fade away. Every time Sanders made another exciting play, whether it was a clutch throw late in a drive or a confident scramble that kept the possession alive, the spotlight around him grew brighter. Fans started talking more, analysts started noticing more, and suddenly the quarterback conversation in Cleveland had a new center of gravity. Meanwhile, Gabriel appeared determined to keep pushing the idea that he was still the better quarterback. Instead of letting performance speak for itself, the narrative started to feel like a back-and-forth rivalry that carried extra emotion behind it. In professional sports, competition between teammates isn't unusual. Quarterback rooms are full of it. But when the competition starts drifting into personal territory, that's when teams begin to worry about chemistry. And just when the situation seemed tense enough, the media jumped right into the middle of the conversation. Certain reporters covering the Browns, including Tony Grossi and Jason Lloyd, openly showed strong support for Gabriel's potential while questioning Sanders more aggressively. Their commentary added another layer to the story because fans were now hearing different narratives depending on where they looked. Some coverage praised Gabriel's experience and leadership, while other voices pointed out that Sanders was the one producing the exciting moments on the field. Suddenly, the Browns' quarterback situation wasn't just a football conversation anymore. It was becoming a full-blown storyline. Social media debates popped up, talk shows discussed it, and fans started choosing sides like it was a playoff rivalry. In the NFL, once a story reaches that level of attention, it rarely stays quiet. Every comment gets analyzed, every performance gets magnified, and every decision inside the building becomes part of the drama. And that is exactly the environment Todd Monken walked into as the new head coach of the Cleveland Browns. When a coach arrives, one of the first things he evaluates is locker room chemistry. Talent is important, sure, but coaches also want players who support the team culture they're trying to build. When tension between quarterbacks becomes a distraction instead of motivation, that's when leadership has to step in. By the time everything settled, Gabriel's time in Cleveland had reached a crossroads. The promise that once surrounded him had slowly been replaced by controversy, questions, and a growing sense that the fit simply wasn't working anymore. In a league where opportunities are limited and competition is relentless, situations like this can change fast. One moment you're viewed as a rising prospect, and the next moment the team decides it's time to move in a different direction. The media hype around Dillon Gabriel was loud, almost like someone cranked the stadium speakers all the way up before kickoff. Certain voices in Cleveland's sports media treated Gabriel like he was already the franchise answer, the quarterback who supposedly had every tool needed to lead the Browns back to glory. Tony Grossi and Jason Lloyd were among the most vocal supporters of that narrative. They spoke about Gabriel as if he was the clear leader of the quarterback room, the player who just needed the right opportunity to take control of the offense. But while Gabriel was getting that glowing spotlight, Shedeur Sanders was often being picked apart for things that didn't even happen on the field. At times, the criticism toward Sanders felt strange because it didn't always line up with what fans were actually seeing during games. Instead of focusing on his strong plays, some coverage zoomed in on small moments or hypothetical mistakes. Grossi and Lloyd even went as far as to question Sanders publicly, criticizing plays he had not even made. That kind of commentary created a clear perception that certain members of the media were backing Gabriel as the better option, even though the performances on the field were starting to tell a very different story. Because here's the reality. When the ball was snapped and the clock was running, Gabriel's play simply didn't match the massive expectations surrounding him. The hype was big, but the production was inconsistent. Yes, he showed flashes here and there, a couple of clean throws, a few moments that hinted at potential, but football games are not won on occasional flashes. They are won in high-pressure moments when quarterbacks need to deliver with precision and confidence. And when those moments arrived, Gabriel struggled to seize them. Meanwhile, Shedeur Sanders was approaching every snap like he had something to prove. From the outside, you could almost see that chip on his shoulder every time he stepped onto the field. Sanders wasn't focused on the noise around him. He was focused on moving the offense, extending drives, and helping his team win games. Week after week, he delivered exciting moments that kept fans buzzing. Clutch throws, confident decision-making, and the kind of calm leadership that quarterbacks need when a game hangs in the balance. Those are the qualities teams build around, and that difference started becoming impossible to ignore. Sanders showed poise under pressure. He managed drives with confidence, read defenses with maturity, and made plays when the offense needed a spark. The kind of plays that make teammates rally around a quarterback in the huddle. Meanwhile, Gabriel continued struggling to show the same level of command. The gap between the two quarterbacks wasn't just about arm talent anymore. It was about leadership, consistency, and the ability to deliver when the game demanded it. As the season unfolded, Gabriel's struggles became harder for even his strongest supporters to explain away. The coaching staff eventually made the difficult decision to bench him, and suddenly the tone of the conversation around him began to shift. The same voices that once praised his potential started adjusting the narrative. Jason Lloyd, who had been one of Gabriel's most enthusiastic supporters, began suggesting a new angle. According to Lloyd, Gabriel might still have the potential to outperform Sanders, but only if he were placed in the right offense. That argument sparked even more debate among fans and analysts. Lloyd suggested that Gabriel had a stronger ability to manage plays, and that he might perform better in Todd Monken's offensive system. But for many viewers who had watched the games closely, the comparison didn't hold up. On the field, Sanders continued to show the kind of confidence, awareness, and playmaking that teams look for in a starting quarterback. Gabriel, on the other hand, struggled to match that level of performance. The difference in decision-making was especially noticeable. Sanders consistently demonstrated the ability to read defenses, adjust quickly, and make smart choices with the football. Those traits separate good quarterbacks from great ones. Football fans often say the quarterback position is about processing information as much as throwing passes, and Sanders showed that he could handle that mental challenge. Gabriel simply didn't show the same level of command over the offense, and while the on-field competition was already intense, things took an even stranger turn when drama began spilling into the public spotlight off the field. At one point, Dylan Gabriel's fiancée took to social media and posted messages criticizing Shedeur Sanders. The comments were widely viewed as disrespectful and unnecessary, especially in a professional sports environment where players already deal with enormous pressure. For many fans, that moment crossed a line. The comments were not just criticism of a performance. They felt like a personal attack directed at Sanders' character and ability. Social media reactions poured in quickly, with people questioning why the situation had escalated in that way. The NFL is competitive, but personal attacks outside the game rarely help anyone involved. What made the situation even more awkward was the silence that followed. Gabriel did not publicly step in to calm the situation or distance himself from the comments. He didn't attempt to defend Sanders or encourage respect between players. Instead, the situation lingered in the background, adding another layer of tension to an already complicated quarterback battle. Inside the Browns organization, that moment reportedly raised serious concerns. Teams want their players focused on football, preparation, and teamwork. When outside distractions start pulling attention away from those priorities, leadership has to take notice. At that point, Gabriel had already been given several opportunities to prove himself on the field. But with performance questions and off-field drama both entering the picture, the situation was becoming difficult to manage. For a while, the previous coaching staff had continued giving Gabriel the benefit of the doubt. They believed he might still develop into a useful piece for the offense. But as the weeks passed, the growing tension around the quarterback room became harder to ignore. The Browns were trying to move forward, and distractions were the last thing they needed. Then everything changed when Kevin Stefanski, the Browns' former head coach, was removed from his position. Suddenly, the entire organization entered a new chapter, and all attention shifted to what the next leadership group would do. New coaching staffs bring new expectations, new evaluations, and sometimes completely new decisions about the roster. That's when Todd Monken stepped in as the Browns' new head coach. From the moment he arrived, people across the league were watching closely to see how he would handle the quarterback situation. During his first press conference, Monken carefully spoke about the direction he wanted for the team. He discussed culture, preparation, accountability, and competition. But one thing stood out to many listeners. Monken never mentioned Dillon Gabriel by name. That silence spoke volumes to fans who were paying attention. In professional sports, what a coach doesn't say can sometimes be just as important as what he does say. That silence from Todd Monken during his first press conference spoke louder than any headline. When reporters waited to hear what the new head coach thought about Dillon Gabriel, there was nothing. No praise, no excitement, not even a casual mention of potential. In the NFL, those little details matter. Coaches usually highlight players they believe in, especially quarterbacks. But in this case, Monken's message was crystal clear without him needing to say much at all. He had already evaluated the situation, and it was obvious he had seen enough. From Monken's perspective, the Browns were trying to build a new culture. That means accountability, focus, and players who bring positive energy to the locker room. What he didn't want was unnecessary drama hanging around the quarterback room like a dark cloud before kickoff. Gabriel's situation had already created too many distractions, and when a team is trying to move forward, distractions are the last thing a new coach wants to deal with. Monken wasn't interested in babysitting ego battles or dealing with personal rivalries that pulled attention away from football. So eventually the decision came down to a simple question. What direction was best for the Browns? After evaluating everything, the performances, the locker room chemistry, and the outside noise, Monken made the call. Dillon Gabriel would no longer be part of the team, and this decision wasn't based only on statistics or highlight reels. It was about the bigger picture of how a quarterback represents the organization both on and off the field. Because if there was one thing that kept surfacing in the story, it was the ongoing tension surrounding Shedeur Sanders. The rivalry had gone far beyond friendly competition between teammates. It had become personal at times, filled with comments, reactions, and moments that made the situation feel uncomfortable inside the organization. For a head coach trying to build trust among players, that kind of environment simply doesn't work. Monken reportedly wanted players who could handle competition without letting emotions spill into unnecessary drama. Football teams thrive when players push each other to improve, but they struggle when that competition turns into distractions. Gabriel's ongoing issues with Sanders had started to feel like a sideshow, and the Browns were not interested in keeping that storyline alive. Once the decision was made, things moved quickly. Dillon Gabriel was officially removed from the team, closing a chapter that had started with plenty of excitement but ended in controversy. Just like that, the quarterback conversation in Cleveland shifted dramatically. The rivalry that had dominated discussions was suddenly over. No more back-and-forth comments, no more debates about who belonged under center. The Browns were moving forward. Gabriel, of course, is free to continue his career elsewhere if another opportunity appears. Professional football is full of second chances, and many players have rebuilt their reputations after difficult chapters. But for the Browns, the message was clear. The organization wanted to turn the page and focus on the future. And speaking of the future, that spotlight is now shining directly on Shedeur Sanders. In one of the biggest announcements of the offseason, Sanders has officially been named the Browns' starting quarterback heading into the upcoming season. For fans who watched his development closely, this moment feels like the natural next step. Sanders had already shown flashes of leadership and playmaking ability throughout his opportunities on the field. Now the team is handing him the keys to the offense and saying, "Go lead us." That kind of trust from a coaching staff is not given lightly in the NFL. Quarterback is the most demanding position in sports, and teams don't make that decision unless they truly believe in a player's ability to handle the responsibility. But Todd Monken didn't sound hesitant at all when discussing Sanders. In fact, he made a statement that caught everyone's attention. Monken described Shedeur Sanders as an elite playmaker. Now, think about that phrase for a moment. Elite playmaker is not the type of description coaches casually throw around during press conferences. It carries weight. It signals confidence. When a head coach uses that kind of language, it tells the entire locker room and the entire fan base that he believes he has something special at the quarterback position. Those words also reveal something else. Monken has clearly spent serious time studying Sanders' tape. Coaches break down every throw, every decision, every adjustment at the line of scrimmage. They analyze how quarterbacks respond to pressure, how they read defenses, and how they lead teammates during critical moments. After watching all of that, Monken reached a firm conclusion. Shedeur Sanders has the tools to lead this offense. And that conclusion sends a powerful message across the league. It tells the Browns roster that the quarterback situation is no longer uncertain. It tells fans that the franchise has chosen a direction. Most importantly, it tells Sanders himself that the coaching staff believes in him completely. Now the opportunity is sitting right in front of him. Sanders has the chance to step fully into the spotlight as the Browns' leader. Quarterbacks are judged by how they handle moments like this: the pressure, the expectations, the responsibility of guiding an entire team. Some players shrink when the spotlight grows brighter. Others rise to the challenge and turn those moments into defining chapters of their careers. For Sanders, this upcoming season represents exactly that kind of opportunity. The doubts, the debates, the noise surrounding the quarterback competition, all of that is in the past now. What matters moving forward is performance, drives, wins, leadership, and the ability to deliver when the game is on the line. And if Todd Monken's confidence is any indication, the Browns believe they have the right player stepping into that role. The team has moved on from the controversy, closed the door on the drama, and committed to a quarterback they believe can lead the franchise forward. For the Cleveland Browns, the mission moving forward is simple. Take the next step as a team and finally build the kind of momentum that fans have been waiting to see. For years, the franchise has been searching for stability at the quarterback position. That one player who can walk into the huddle, command respect, and push the entire offense forward. Now the Browns believe they may finally have that player in Shedeur Sanders. With Todd Monken guiding the offense and the locker room rallying behind their new starter, the stage is set for Sanders to show exactly what he can do when the full weight of the franchise is behind him. Quarterbacks thrive when they have trust from their coaches and teammates, and right now Sanders appears to have both. Monken has already made it clear that he sees something special in the young quarterback. Calling him an elite playmaker wasn't just a casual compliment. It was a statement about the direction of the team. Coaches don't use language like that unless they truly believe a player can elevate the offense and deliver when the pressure rises. For Sanders, that vote of confidence could be the spark that unlocks the next level of his game. And let's be honest, the opportunity in front of him is massive. Cleveland fans have been craving consistency and excitement at quarterback for a long time. Every season begins with hope, and every season the conversation eventually